Are we shocked? No. Uh, let's be frank about this news. This show had to fight. It boy did it have an uphill battle from the beginning. Number one, it was the first piece of live action media moving away from the Skywalker saga. Number two, it had a super diverse cast, and no matter how you try and shake it, there's always going to be a section of the internet that hates any form of diversity in any way, shape, or quite literally form. Um, it had horrible marketing, both from Disney marketing it as something that it wasn't, like this super dark R-rated take on the Force and the Jedi, and also horrible marketing from the stars who really didn't seem as though they knew what the fuck they were talking about, and at the exact same time were a little bit flippant with how they were reacting to the community, where sometimes the best form of engagement is non-engagement. Dropping an entire fucking diss soundtrack music video for whatever reason really doesn't foster a positive discussion. It only ends up creating way more discourse than needs to be in the space, because there's already a shit ton of discourse in the space because it's Star Wars. But on top of that, you are working with a company that, for the most part, has let down the vast majority of its stars in this franchise. We're talking about John Boyega in regards to the Black Stormtrooper, um, Black erasure from Chinese and foreign markets controversy. We're talking about Daisy Ridley basically being bullied and death threatened off of fucking social media for like 8, 10 fucking years. We're talking about the initial hatred for Hayden Christensen, where he admitted at, I think it was whatever, not this D20, I want to say it was the last one, where he admitted that he wasn't aware that the Star Wars community liked him. He thought that they hated him for playing Anakin. You're talking about Ahmed Best being bullied for playing Jar Jar Binks. You're talking about Jake Lloyd being bullied by adults, then having that bullying be transferred to him in school, and then having him have to fall out of school and uh, become homeschooled, where it completely fucked with his mentals to the point that the destruction and catastrophic implosion that is his life has to do with Star Wars. I think he went through like a 10-year phase before he started to heavily abuse substances, where he hated when anybody recognized him from Star Wars. So there's a track record of Disney letting down its stars. Shit, we could even turn around and look at what the fuck is his name? I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he plays all of the clones, and he also plays Boba Fett. Where during his Boba Fett series, he had some backlash that was essentially thrown his way. Um, on top of all of that, this show was never meant to succeed. This show, it kind of feels like the creative freedoms or the writing freedoms that this show was given is something that you really wouldn't see in Andor, or you really wouldn't see in The Mandalorian, where Andor and The Mandalorian tend to use and play with the Star Wars history a lot closer to the chest by kind of lining up with things canonically that are essentially happening and making sure it doesn't overstep or step on the toes of something else that's happening at the same time. Because this show was happening in a completely different time period, it kind of got that green light to basically be flexible and bendable and wiggly and kind of, mess with the history of things, just a little bit, because you are set up 100 years before the main story essentially occurs. But then, On top of all those things that I just talked about, you had subpar writing. And I really feel as though if the writing was better, like if the show started off with the writing that it had during episode 5 and 6, where the writing was a lot more focused as it was trying to hone in on the point it was trying to make, if the writing had started off phenomenal from the beginning, if they had given us more lightsaber clashes and fights, because no matter what side of the spectrum you fall on, the general argument is that the lightsaber duels in this show are absolutely phenomenal. If they had given us more of that, I feel as though it would have been able to retain eyeballs. However, the story for the first 4 episodes was poor. Or at least, yes, I would say the story for the first 4 episodes were poor. Whereas, and then like the last 2 episodes got genuinely better, but it still had a lot of the weak writing that existed from the beginning of the season. If the writing was top tier, I'm talking Andor top tier in regards to not only the writing but also the performances, where you have Keimer, whose his performance is absolutely fantastic. Out of both of the twins, I would say that Osha definitely had better writing than May, and then the child actors weren't as good. I don't know where, I've said it before and I've said it again. I don't know where Game of Thrones goes to get its child actors, but Star Wars needs to go or go through the same process in regards to getting child actors. Because there are fantastic child actors out there that are able to emote feelings where you can see their you can see the feelings they're trying to convey essentially expressed on their face, where you can understand where exactly it is they're coming from and what they're trying to tell you. I didn't get that from them. They were okay. They were decent. I feel as though if they spent a little bit more time, maybe like a few more years inside of the acting space, they'll really become fantastic actresses. But for the most part, in this show, along with the writing, it just didn't help them in any way, shape, or form. And I have a feeling that a lot of their stuff was green screen, so it really didn't help them in any way, shape, or form. But then jumping on top of the green screen is the cost. $180 million over 8 episodes is fucking insane. At that point in time, you may as well have just done a movie. You might as well have just done a movie. And to be quite honest, I could streamline the movie in my head within, I would say about 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, I can streamline the entire thing in my head. Starts off with the Jedi on whatever the hell the name of that planet was that I don't friggin' remember. It goes through the entire process, but we get a skewed version of events. Uh, and Soul saves Osha. May falls. Time skips into the future. She's no longer a Jedi. Same way on the ship. And then instead of having Killmonger show up together, instead it's Soul who shows up together because he's investigating a death on the opposite side of the universe, and it's not her, and it's more than likely May. And he's like, I need your help to figure out if it's your sister. You can chop out a bunch of characters, you can condense this story into a 2 hour film. And I feel as though that 2 hour film will be absolutely fantastic. But trying to tell a deep story with interwoven dialogue, flashbacks, philosophical exposition on the Force, philosophical exposition on what it means to be a Jedi, going through all of like the different political stances where some things should have been spent a little bit more time on. Then there's the more shady things going on. You weren't going to be able to nail that in 8 episodes. You needed at least 12. You needed at least 12 episodes to flush out the story. And then on top of all that, Disney has metrics that you have to hit. When this thing comes out, it has to be on like 100 million screens, and it has to be viewed like 7 billion minutes have to be watched. This show was dead from the beginning. It was never going to survive. It was never going to live up to expectation. And it's a shame because and I really don't think that Star Wars fans realize like just how just how bad this is, because this was the first time in a while. I would say the first time since like Star Wars Visions where we have gone outside of the Skywalker saga. Something that's never happened before in regards to Star Wars, where we're always somewhere around the Empire or the Rebellion or the Resistance or the New Republic or the Republic. And this was the first time they went outside that wheelhouse, introducing new concepts for the Force, introducing new Force cults, having fantastic duels. And it went over like a lead balloon. And people keep asking questions along the lines of like, well, why won't they just give us the Old Republic? This is why. Because when you take risks, you fail. Sometimes you take a risk and you fail, but you learn a lesson from it. The lesson that Disney basically learned from this is anything that's not related to the Skywalkers isn't going to work. So why would I give you a Old Republic show? Why would I give you a Old Republic movie? You guys aren't interested in that. You're not interested in anything different. You're not interested in anything new. When we tried to do something new in regards to The Last Jedi, you hated it. When we brought people back and did what you wanted us to do with Rise of Skywalker, you hated it. When Force Awakens came out and we tried to have it be this new coming of age version of A New Hope, you hated it. You asked us, why are we nostalgia baiting? Every time we try and give you something new, you don't want it. So we're just going to keep tapping the well. You're going to see 15 other stories about some Jedi that survived during Order 66 that you never fucking heard of before, or their Padawan that survived Order 66 that you've never heard of before, every single time. Every single time something new comes out, you're going to be seeing a new sequence from a new perspective of Order 66, because you're going to be getting the same flavor of vanilla for the rest of your fucking life because people don't want to branch out. I thought the show was a risk. Like I said, there are great things that the show did, and there are sucky things that the show did. But the show was a risk, and I feel as though they really should have just took a step back, looked at what worked, took what worked, and then built upon that. Instead, they chose to cancel the entire thing and not move forward. So what are you going to get? You're going to get Andor, which happens during the Skywalker saga. What are you going to get? You're going to get Ahsoka, which has Anakin in it, which is tied into the Skywalker saga. What are you going to get? You're going to get Skeleton's Crew, which takes place during the Skywalker saga. This is all you're going to be getting from now on. So, congratulations. The only time you're going to be getting top tier Star Wars media that has nothing to do with the Skywalkers is hopefully in video games. But even there, once again, the Skywalkers are there because Fallen Order and what was the name of the second one? I forgot the name of the second one. All that's happened during the Skywalker saga. So we'll see. Hopefully, Disney decides to take risks again in regards to Star Wars. But like I said, in regards to this show, there were just there was just way too many things working against it.